Hey everyone, Chelsea here from Sew Simple Home. Our project today is going to be very useful. We are making a traveling first aid kit. So this first aid kit closes, has a little magnetic snap. You could use a cam snap or Velcro if you don't have a magnetic snap. And then it has two zipper pouches, one that's clear, so you can fill it with all your Band-Aids or whatever other supplies you might need. And then another that's a mesh pocket. You can put your medicines in, whatever you might need in your traveling first aid kit. This is a nice and big first aid kit. Finished dimensions are about 9 inches wide by about 13 inches long. So it's a nice size, but it can easily go in a suitcase, in a backpack. You could leave this in a car, so you always have those supplies with you. All right, let's go through what you're gonna need for this project. So there's a few things that you're gonna need. To start with, let's move these guys off. You can get all of this information in the link in the description. It'll take you over to the blog. It'll have the total list of materials needed, a cutting chart for all the things that you need to cut, links for all of the places that you can purchase different materials. So everything will be over there. But we'll just kind of go through it. So you're going to need 2 pieces of 10 by 14 and a half, so 10 by 14 and a half cotton fabric. You could do matching, you could do contrasting, it's totally up to you. So one will be the outside and one will be the inside. You need 1 piece of batting, that's 10 by 14 and a half, and then 1 piece of fusible interfacing, that's 10 by 14 and a half. So that will be the main part of the traveling first aid kit. So we're just gonna set these aside for now. Then you're gonna cut strips. So the inside of the case is what makes the pockets. So all of these pieces are going to make the pockets. So you're going to need about 4 strips. I believe it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, 4 strips. I've got 5 here, but 4 strips of 10 by 1.5 of a contrasting fabric. You're going to need 3 strips of 10 by 2.5 inches. You're going to need 2 strips of mesh material that is also 10 by 2.5 inches. You're going to need 2 zippers. These ones right here I think are 14, let's see. Yeah, 14-inch zippers. You could use a 10-inch zipper, but I found the longer one is actually a little bit easier to work with on this project. So I would highly suggest a 12-inch or 14-inch zipper for this. And then you're going to need 1 magnetic snap or cam snap or piece of Velcro, whatever. There's 2 in here, but I'm just going to use 1 of those. And then you're going to need a couple of scrap pieces. I've got 4 here. Fusible interfacing. You're going to use that with the snaps to secure them. It'll just help so that they don't end up pulling through when you use them, because as you snap them they get pulled and you don't want to ruin your material. Oh, and lastly, almost forgot, you're going to need a 10, let me make sure here, 10 by 5-inch piece of clear film. Honestly, I don't know that the weight matters on this. A little bit more sturdy will probably last a little longer than a real flimsy piece, but I think this one's kind of a medium weight. And I believe that's all your supplies. You'll also need matching thread for your machine. The other thing I would suggest is the film. When you get film, it comes with some tissue. You're going to want some of this tissue today for sewing. So I just literally take my scissors and cut off a long strip like that. and we will use some of this for sewing. If you don't have this tissue, you can use regular tissue paper, and that will work as well. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna take one of my main fabric pieces here, and I'm just gonna kind of set up what this project's gonna look like. So at the top, I'm gonna use 2 pieces of the 2.5 by 10 inch fabric. Then next will come a zipper. Then would come my piece of film. Because it's clear, I've already lost it. Here it is. So our film will go right here. Then we're gonna need one of our 10 inch by 1.5 inch pieces. Next will come some mesh. Then one of our 1.5 pieces, our zipper, another 1.5 inch piece, our mesh, and then finally our 2.5 inch piece. Now I know it looks like it's not gonna all fit on there right, but I promise you it'll all work out in the end. So this is kind of the progression of sewing. All right, now to start off with, we're gonna take the first 2 layers here. I have 2 pieces of 2.5 by 10 inch, and then I have my zipper. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay one, so let me show you here. So what we want is for our fabric to fold over. So I'm actually gonna open my zipper because it's a little bit easier to sew this way. And I'm going to put these 2 layers of material in between, or my zipper in between those 2 layers. And then I'm going to put it in my sewing machine. Now if you do not have a zipper foot, you can still do this. I can't seem to find mine. So I just moved my needle over and I'm sewing as close to the edge of my zipper as I can. And that'll work just as fine. Except for I have no bobbin. What in the world? Okay, let's try this again. Alright, so there's my zipper sandwiched between my 2 layers. And I'm just going to kind of fold it over, take my little iron here, and press that material away from the zipper. So it kind of looks like this. And then I'm just going to top stitch over that. Now I'm going to top stitch it because I want that fabric to stay out of the way of the zipper. If you've ever had something where the fabric moved in the way, we all have backpacks that used to do that and it would drive us nuts, right? Okay, so that's the first section. The other thing I'm going to do, I haven't done this yet, so I'm going to fold this in half and just kind of finger press it. That's just going to help us know where the center is. So one pocket goes to here, the other pocket goes below. That just kind of helps us gauge. Alright, so that's the first section. Now the next piece, we're doing the film. But the film just sewn to the zipper is not going to work out for us. That is not what we want. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to sew a piece of fabric just like we did at the top first, and then we're going to sew the film to that piece of fabric and press it up. So we're going to start with this one. I'm going to open this zipper up again, line this material up with the edge of the zipper, and stitch it in place. Making sure to stay close to the zipper but not stitching over the zipper. We don't want it to stitch over the zipper. Okay, once again, I'm going to press that material, and then I'm going to top stitch that fabric out of the way so I don't end up with it getting stuck. Okay. Cut these threads, so we don't want those. Okay, so there is my zipper. You could kind of say casing, I guess you would say. Alright, so now I'm going to take my film here, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to flip it so that the right sides are together, and I'm going to stitch it just to this zipper piece. However, this film is not going to stay in place very well, and it often will get stuck on the sewing machine, which drives people crazy. So this is where you're going to use your little piece of tissue. So you're going to put your zipper, film, tissue on top, and you're going to stitch it down. Now the film might move while you're sewing, but all you just need to do is kind of adjust it so that it lines up at 1/4 of an inch on with your fabric. And I'm just going to trim my film down because I made mine a little bit bigger. I didn't cut it perfect because, like I said, sometimes that film moves, and so that just gives me a little bit of leeway. So that's kind of what it looks like. Now, the reason you use tissue paper is because it serrates as you're sewing, and you can just literally pull it right off for the most part. So it got a little stuck. There we go. Just like that. And then when I'm going to press it, this time I'm going to press my material this way so that I don't see the raw edge of that plastic. And I need to use some fabric over the plastic, over that film, so that it doesn't melt, because we don't want that. Okay, so you can kind of see that. And again, I'm just going to stitch over the top. Now we're going to see how it goes in my machine here. It's flowing pretty well. You could put a piece of tissue paper over the bottom before you top stitch that as well. But it seemed to have done pretty well this time because things were already kind of stitched. All right, so now I'm going to place this on here. See how things are lining up. They're looking good. Our next step is to add, again, another piece of fabric material to the edge of, our film. So we're just going to do the layers. I'm going to just go ahead and put it right in my machine and hope for the best. So I've got my little pressing cloth here again so that I don't melt my plastic. Just press that up and top stitch. So that is what the top pocket looks like. Now we're going to go a little bit backwards. So we're going to keep that up there, and we're going to start at the bottom here. And we're going to stitch the bottom piece with one of the mesh pieces. We're just going to stitch them 1/4 inch, just like we did all the other stuff. So that's the 2.5 inch piece of fabric with the 2.5 inch piece of mesh. So we've got those two together. Top stitch. And the top stitch is just really going to keep those sections together. And keep the raw edges down so they're out of the way. Okay. Now we're going to do another piece of 1.5 inch fabric on top of this mesh at 1/4 inch. Now the mesh fabric I have has a little bit of a stretch to it, so I have to be really careful as I'm sewing it to try not to stretch it. So on the first one I struggled with that a little bit, so on this one I'm doing much better. So I pressed it, and again I'm in a top stitch. Okay, so that's going to be the bottom piece. And then my top piece here, so my zipper will go here. And then I have this piece that will go on my zipper, and then my mesh. So again, I'm going to sew the 1.5 inch piece to my mesh. Press it up, and then top stitch that for this second pocket that we're making here. Okay, so this piece will go up like this. All right, so I have my zipper that I need to attach the mesh pieces to. And I found that the mesh just didn't sew as well to the zipper. It's just not as secure. And so that's why we have the extra little fabric piece. So my zipper is going to go right side together with my bottom portion of the mesh. So I'm going to unzip it and pin this side here so it kind of stays in place, and switch my needle position. If you have your zipper foot, you can put that on. Just sew one side of my zipper on. And it's going to go like this. Kind of see that here. So we're going to press it, and then we'll top stitch that part down because we don't want the zipper to get caught. Okay, clip our threads there. So that's the first part of the zipper. See it there? Then the second part's going to go this way, right sides together again. Okay, I'm going to open my zipper again. So I've got my right sides together. Pin that just so it won't move. Turn it over here and stitch my zipper on. cut all those threads. Once again, we want to iron. And then we'll top stitch. See how quickly this kind of comes together? If you have all those pieces cut. All right. It's got these little straggler threads here. Oops, didn't get that one. Zip it up. And there is my bottom. So here's my bottom zipper. And here is my top zipper. See how they kind of come together? So now I'm going to put the two of them together. So I'm simply going to turn the bottom zipper right sides together, match it on my little fabric piece here, and stitch it at 1/4 inch. And then when I press it, I'm going to press everything towards the center so that all the seams can't be seen. So I'm going to need my little presser cloth here so it's out of the way and so I don't melt that film. And I can kind of push that mesh. And then I'll top stitch that mesh. Now you could skip the top stitch of the mesh at the beginning here, because you will be top stitching the center to the fabric, but I'm not going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. All right, there we go. Everybody fits on there nicely. Doesn't that look good? So 1 zipper, 2 zippers. So you can kind of see why I kept this bottom layer on there, just so that we can kind of gauge and make sure everything's fitting right. Now if it doesn't fit right, feel free to trim the sides, trim the top. It may not be the exact dimensions of the pattern, but that's okay, right? Because it's your project, so you can do whatever works for you. All right, we're gonna just put this to the side. We're going to take our other piece here and we're going to go ahead and turn it wrong side up, and we're going to put our interfacing on it, and we're going to press our interfacing to the wrong side of our material. Alright, so our interfacing is on. Now this is a directional print, so I want to make sure that all my birds are going the right direction. But I've got my interfacing on, and then on top of that, I'm just going to put my layer of batting. Now you could skip the batting. It just adds a little bit of thickness. If you want it to be real thin and floppy, then you can skip the batting part, and that would be just fine. So I have my fabric interfacing batting, and then over here, move things around a little bit. Over here I've got my birds, they're upside down. Let's put them right side up here. I've got my bird fabric on the bottom, and then I have my pocket on the top. And I am just going to put a couple of pins through this layer just to ensure nobody moves. I'm also going to unzip my pockets a couple of inches, not a lot, just enough that I don't sew over the actual zipper. So I have my main piece and I have my front piece or my back. I guess it just depends on what you see. But before we put them together, we need to put our snap on. Because if you wait, then your snap won't work. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the middle, and I'm going to press 2 squares of interfacing right in the middle of the back side. Same thing at the bottom. And this is going to make it so that that snap has somewhere to go without it ripping the material. Now I'm going to put the female side on the bottom, and I can do that by taking the back piece and I just mark the 2 sections right there in the middle. And then I'm just going to take a little pair of scissors and punch through all the layers, just like that. And then I can punch this through. This one didn't go all the way through the layers. Here we go. And then I can put my snap in. That's the idea, at least. Hang on. Here we go. Those extra layers of interfacing, it gave me trouble. But it's good to have them. So he's punched through, I put the backing on it, and then just with your fingers, you should be able to push those prongs towards the center. So make sure they're going to line up good. Okay, do the same thing here. Punch through all the layers. Take this through. Just like that, and then add the backing, and then move those prongs towards the center. We have both sides of our snap in. It'll work out good here. So now we're going to put our inside layer and our outside layer together. So we're going to place the outside layer right sides together with the inside layer. And I'm just going to put a couple of pins through the layers just to keep things in place. And then I'm going to leave my opening at the bottom here to turn it right side out. So this is going to be my opening. So I'm going to stitch all the way around through all the layers. Now the other thing I did that I didn't mention is I opened my zipper about 2 inches, both of them, so that I don't accidentally sew over the actual zipper. It's out of the way. So now I'm going to switch my needle back to the right position, and I'm going to stitch at 1/4 of an inch all the way around this bag or tote. What would you call it? Tote? First aid tote? Get to my corners, I'm going to turn and keep sewing. Other corner, turn. If I get to a pin, I pull it out. Turn, and then finish where my pin was at. The back stitch. Okay, we're almost done. It seems a lot more complicated than it actually is, this project. So it's pretty fun. Okay, I can now cut the excess of my zipper off, get it out of the way, clip all my corners here, take these pins out. This is kind of what it looks like. This is a good time to check and make sure you got through all of your layers. Sometimes it gets a little bit close. This top one is a little close, so I'm actually going to sew across just a little bit. So what I hate is when I turn a project right side out and then I have this big hole or didn't go through all the layers. It's the worst. Okay, now we get to turn it right side out, which can be a little tricky if you're not sure what layer you're working with here. But I'm going to come all the way up to this corner up here and pull it out through the opening that we left. And I do have some pins in here still that I left, so I want to be careful as I'm turning it that I don't poke myself, because they were on our zipper layers. It's not a very big opening that we're working through, so you have to work a little bit. There's a pin tried to take me out. Here's another one. Here's the last one right here. Just turn everything right side out. Perfect. Now it looks kind of silly, but you're gonna take, all right, everything's pressed out. Doesn't it look great? So it will fold in half like this. It'll look really nice. Okay, now right now we just have one giant pocket because we haven't sewn this middle seam. So you can just sew right down the middle of it, or you can stitch over both of these pieces, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to stitch right over the stitching I did on that middle line. So I literally just stitched over that, and on the back you can see the seam there. And you could do one or you can do two, it's totally up to you. But now I have 1, 2 pockets, so that's not just one giant pocket. The other thing we need to do is close off the bottom here. Now you can hand stitch this closed using a slip stitch, or you can put it on your machine and top stitch it. You could, if you wanted, top stitch around the entire bag if you wanted. I am just going to use my machine and just top stitch. Do I want to do that? What do I want to do? I'm just going to find my needle in here and real quick slip stitch that closed. It's a small opening, so it won't take long to slip stitch it. And I think on this project it'll just look nicer. So I'm coming up from the bottom, put a little bigger knot on the bottom here. There we go. Coming up from the bottom inside, and I'm just going through the lip of the yellow and then coming back and going through the lip on the opposite side of the blue. And what that will do, it hides the stitch, but it closes it off as well. And so I'll leave a link for how to slip stitch. We teach you how to slip stitch using repairing pillows. So this is the method I use when I get holes in like a decorative pillow. Like I said, this is a really small opening, and so it doesn't take a lot. So it's already sewn closed here. So I'm just gonna tie it off in a little knot real quick. And it is all done. There we go. There is our first aid kit with our cute little birds on it, all stitched closed. Can open it up and add our Band-Aids in here, right? It's big enough you could put a thermometer. Mine's a little bit bigger than some people's. You can put medicine that you might have. If you're traveling, this would make a good even makeup case. I got some hair ties. I always feel like that's an emergency. We always need hair ties. And then you can just close it up. It's a nice thickness. You can put it in a bag, a backpack, suitcase. Just put it in your car just like this, right, for emergency situations. You can see what's in your bag so that you can easily access what you need. And you have a great little traveling first aid kit. I hope you like this project. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments. Make sure to check out the link in the description to get the full photo tutorial, all the measurements, the pattern, all of that stuff. It'll take you over to our blog. And then again, if you have any questions, make sure and leave them in the comments. We'll see you guys next time.